By the ageless Vishanti, by the eye of Agamotto, this is Doctor Strange. We're now at movie number 14 in the MCU. Time to introduce some magic with one of the weirder and also lesser known characters of the comics, Dr. Stephen Strange. And because he is lesser known and his powers and foes stranger than what we've seen so far, this is your typical origin story. But that's fine, and to be quite honest, I personally don't mind origin stories, I actually like them very much. So after that awesome new Marvel Studios logo, we get a little glimpse at the kind of bizarre action we might see later on in the movie. We witness an early encounter between the Ancient One, a mystical monk-like warrior, and the villain of this movie, Caecilius, who is portrayed by the always awesome Mads Mikkelsen. While fighting, they transform their surroundings. Buildings extend, gravity changes, the stuff you've seen in the trailer and which reminds most of the people a lot of Inception. Right after that we are introduced to our new hero, a neurosurgeon with a big ego. Well, he's the best there is, and he is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who fits the role perfectly. I'm not the world's biggest Cumberbatch fan, I always thought he comes across as a little bit arrogant and not very likable, but that's exactly what this character needs. And when he's beginning to prove he's not such a bad human being after all, it's all the more satisfying. He's the heart of the movie, the showrunner, and it works. There's only one other who steals the show, and that is his cloak. The magical cloak of levitation, who has a will of his own. But we only get there at the halfway point of the movie. First, we're being introduced to the secret training ground of the Ancient One, and director Scott Derrickson and his writing team gives us just enough information to understand this new aspect of the Marvel Universe. It has a little Matrix vibe, because like Neo, Strange 2 has to discover there is more to the world. And when the Ancient One first kicks the astral form out of Strange's body, that's a great moment. That's the starting point, that's the moment Strange and we too realize things will be different from now on. Magic is real, and with great new power comes great new responsibility. While the Avengers are protecting the world from physical dangers, the job of Strange and co. is the battle against mystical threats. And like in so many Marvel movies before, Caecilius isn't the deepest villain. There's nothing wrong with Mikkelsen's performance, and I liked how he was popping in the narrative throughout the movie and not just at the very end. But his motivation and overall goal is kind of the usual stuff. He's not a bad villain, but simply not very emotional, involving or groundbreaking in any way, other than visually. And the visuals are really great. It's not as trippy and spectacular as I was hoping it to be. Maybe my expectations were too high or I'm just spoiled, but they gave me goosebumps more than once nevertheless. Actually quite often, to be honest. Maybe I was just a little bit disappointed that it's mostly this Inception kind of effect with bending buildings and awesome time-slowing effects. Oh, and a lot of prismatic stuff? Not sure if that's the right term, but I have to add that unfortunately the press screening wasn't held in IMAX. It was just a normal 3D projection, and while the 3D was okay, I could have easily done without it. But another thing that's often criticized in Marvel movies is the music. Doctor Strange is the first MCU movie scored by Michael Giacchino, and I like the soundtrack very much. For most part the music is not that notable, because like in almost all modern mainstream movies, it's just complementing the fast-paced action. But every here and there it gets more prominent and sticks out. It has a 70s synthesizer flavor to it, and I'm looking forward to listen to the soundtrack on its own in a few days. The music adds to the sometimes kind of creepy vibe the movie gives off. Director Scott Derrickson is coming from the horror genre, and while Doctor Strange is not a horror movie, it has some darker, more eerie moments as well. But overall, I was really surprised of how funny the movie is. It was confirmed that Marvel brought in community creator Dan Harmon to make the film funnier, and one or two moments might seem a little bit forced to some people, but I really liked all the little jokes, especially because Cumberbatch has great comedic timing.
Mr. Doctor,
It's strange.
maybe. Who am I to judge?
Marvel does this all the time, and it's still working and creating an overall very entertaining movie. Aside from Strange himself, the characters aren't really fleshed out that well, and I was hoping for just a little bit more, that extra bit of crazy flavor, but overall I was very happy with the movie. But one thing I took a little bit more issue with was the character arc of Baron Mordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. This might be considered a minor spoiler, but everyone who knows at least a little bit about the comics knows this. Here it comes. Baron Mordo is one, when not the arch nemesis of Strange, and to see him not as the villain but as a friend and companion in the movie was kind of a surprise. I think it worked fine and I liked the dynamic, but in the second half his arc is completely rushed and his actions didn't feel justified at all to me. The movie finishes at under 2 hours, credits included, and maybe it would have been wiser to add some more meat to Mordo. And also just a tiny bit more to Rachel McAdams' character and her relationship to Stephen as well maybe. But overall, Doctor Strange was quite a delight, and after the awesome extravaganza that Civil War was, it's also nice to see a new hero stand on his own for now, until we throw him in the big MCU adventures.
Teach me.
One last thing I liked. The overall theme of the movie is time. And they carry that motive from start to finish. And it's also one of the last 2 missing Infinity Stones. I give Doctor Strange 7.5 out of 10.
This is just the beginning.
Alright, that's it. Like always, please tell me in the comments below what you think about Doctor Strange. And also tell me, did you know the character before the movie? And if so, what is a must-read comic storyline I have to check out? You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like.
You are not my